right, so today's video is going to be written from the perspective of a lady of the night phone worker that's been unemployed for a year. Why? Because it sounds funny. That's why. Many of you forget that this is dystopian entertainment. This channel is designed to be humorous, to poke fun at the hamster wheel of going nowhere with a career that never started. Work life balance? It doesn't exist. It's things that corporations tell you to make you feel better about being shackled to your chair while you work relentlessly. So today's video was also inspired by Benton JA668. No one in all of human history has ever hard worked themselves into wealth. Not once. It's never been possible. When I put that line into ChatGPT, it came up with the title Generational Wealth or Bust. Because it's true. I've been saying this for more than 10 years. It's great to be born rich. It's great when your grandparents leave you money. It's not great when you're born into a family of in the inner city of color, and your mom works cleaning houses and your dad works in a factory. It's not the best. It's not going to have the best outcome. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's definitely an outlier. In fact, about 6 months ago, Mello sent me a documentary about this family who was raising their kids in a very poor part of the country, and the kids just ended up doing the exact same thing. They had kids, they moved into their parents' house, and they went to work at the same places that their parents did, literally repeating the cycle of systemic poverty for another generation. Those kids are going to come out, they're going to want to have kids, and boom, you're stuck again. That's why you have multi generational poverty until someone in your family is born smart enough to give the rest of the family a chance. I come from one of the poorest areas of Mexico that you can imagine. I can't even find where I was born on a map, let alone tell you how to get there. I don't even think the place exists anymore. It's so remote and so terrible. This wasn't a place where you could go to a grocery store. Everything you had to make it yourself. The family supported itself for multiple generations through corn farming. No harvest, no food. Wintertime, showers was a 5-gallon bucket and a cup. Freezing cold, standing outside. Will never forget the way that water hits you when it's cold outside and you're butt naked. It's an experience that I will take into the grave with me because it was that awful. I remember looking through the holes in the walls of our little shanty structure. You could see outside through the inside through a communal room where the kids slept in one big room and all the adults slept in another one. And these adults weren't normal. They did things that I can't talk about on YouTube that I saw with my own two eyes. And I still, again, memories that I can never erase that I try to get rid of all the time. But with that said, let's get into today's video. They say if you just work hard enough, you can make it. Cute, right? Because history shows us nobody's ever clocked in, sweat through their shirt, and walked straight into generational wealth. The rich don't grind their way there. They leverage ownership, luck, and someone else's labor. Meanwhile, the rest of us are told to keep chasing the carrot, even if it's rotting on a stick. You know, I recently heard it. In fact, I just heard it last Sunday, exactly a week ago, because I was at the salon where this girl told me that on her days off, she just likes to do something called rot. She just wants to lay in bed, do nothing, and rot. And for someone like her who has a regular full-time job and then works in a doctor's office 2 days a week. So her job working in a salon means that she doesn't have weekends off. So she works Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday she works at a doctor's office making minimum wage. And She told me that when she does have free time, all she wants to do is just sit still and not do anything and drink until her eyes pop out, which I thought was sexy as hell. But, to each their own. So, without further ado, let's get into talking point number one. Every historical example of lasting wealth is built on the assets, land, capital, stocks, intellectual property, not hourly work. Hard work may keep you alive, but ownership is what multiplies income without multiplying hours. Love that. That is one of my favorite things that I have read this year. Multiply income without multiplying hours. I've told you guys this before. You want to make it down there, what you're getting paid? You're going to work 200 hours a week. How? Working multiple jobs simultaneously. That's the only way that you can start living a life where you get to eat every day. If you're not capable of putting in that many hours, that minimum wage job will never sustain you. Every time someone asks me about moving out of their parents' house, I tell them it's the worst move you'll ever make. Because sure, you may get the freedom to work 200 hours a week. And your parents might do something stupid while you're out of the house temporarily trying to figure it out, like have another child. And when you ask if you can move back home, they'll say there's no room. I've actually heard that several times where the parent says, sorry, they won't even let you sleep on the floor in the living room. That's how bad it can be out there. Because when you let your kids back into the house, you're allowing a cost deduction in your house. That kid's going to require everything. Resources, it's going to cost you money. Money you don't want to spend because you don't have it. But multiplying hours is a great way of looking at paying for a place to live that you don't have time to be at. And that's something that really gets me because if you have to spend all of your free time working just to be able to afford rent and you can't live in your house because you're never there, what's the point? The point is they don't want you living in a storage unit. They don't want you living in a car. They obviously don't want you living in a tent. They need you in these apartments, paying rent every single day so that the owner class of our society can stay incredibly wealthy. You're not paying rent means they're not making money off of everything that you do. Everything about the human race, we are cattle to them. We were raised to participate in their society while they own everything and you own nothing. Okay? For that hater in my comments every day, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Smiling at work while you're suffering at home is so common that I believe it's been normalized to a degree in which you can't say. I was just talking to my friend who went to church right now, and she's like, "You need to come to church with me, Millennial Steve. It'll make you feel much better about your problems." My reply to that is church sedates you, it confuses you, it makes you believe that God's going to take the wheel, that inevitably Jesus is going to show up in the back of a Geo Metro and save us all, which, again, it's a noble cause. But even Jesus didn't have a happy ending. Talking point number two. Even so called self made millionaires usually had early advantages, financial support from family, debt free starts, elite connections, or the freedom to take risks without risking homelessness. You know how hard it is to get rich and how easy it is to become homeless. Someone becoming homeless is just one missed paycheck. In fact, I was talking to Blue this morning, and she said one of her coworkers, another male carrier like herself, lost his job, and within 10 days, she saw him on the street. It's that quick, people. I see the eviction notices in my neighborhood on a regular basis. People don't have security. How are you going to have security on a $16 an hour job? And the moment that you stop being grateful for your $16 an hour job, the owner, the manager, whomever is just going to look at you like, we just don't see that go-getter mentality. You don't, you're not, what do you, how do I put this? You're not sweating out enthusiasm for the role. I love when they call jobs roles. Or, you know what you are? You know what you really are to a corporation? You're a human resource. A resource like a battery that gets used up. That's what you are. You're not special. And you never will be in a system that glorifies wealthy, successful people and vilifies the average working man. The man that drinks too much. The man that doesn't like going to work. And the man that's no longer interested in chasing the American dream. The man that has so few things to live for that he sits in his little hole all day long, talking into a microphone, hoping to make a thin dime. So many of you have been telling me in the comments lately that you think I'm talking about you. The fact is, they don't want us to hear these messages. The second the proletariat becomes demoralized to the point where their lives become so depressing that they don't want to participate. We have a low desire society because everything that we actually want is unattainable. We all want a Victoria's Secret girlfriend, a hot car, a mansion. But it's impossible, so we settle for rent in a tiny apartment that's overpriced. We settle for a life that's less than satisfying. We settle for a life in which our reward for being alive is being able to sleep a few hours at night after drinking until your eyes popped out. That's what the proletariat enjoys. And I used to think it was just me. But the more I talk to people, the more I realize that we're all the same. We may not like it. That's the problem with getting the proletariat to unite. We don't like considering ourselves to be losers. In fact, there's this one girl that I saw her this morning at the gym that still, nearly 3.5 years later, still won't talk to me because she thinks I'm a loser for not getting any job. I literally saw her, at 8 o'clock this morning, and she gave me that look of disgust that proles have for other proles because no one really wants to believe that they're actually poor. They think that just because you make money, that just because you go to work 40 hours a week, that you're not poor. I'm here to tell you that you are very, very poor. And you will never be rich. Remember all the videos where I've told you that hourly work is the work of the devil? And it's very true. And it's intentional. Remember, everything that happens to us benefits a certain class of society. It doesn't benefit me and you. I love using the example of that greedy business owner that sells self-help literature on YouTube about how he wants to turn his business, his landscaping business, into $1 million a year business. But in order to do that, he's got to find workers that he can train and that he can sustain, right? That will stay with him, that will give up working for him as hard as they can in temperatures like this, 110 every day. And you want workers to show up with that can-do attitude. The expression work like the owner for minimum wage is what these guys expect. And then they get so disappointed. You should see the look on his face. It's like, man, I keep hiring these guys. I keep giving these people the opportunity to make money, and they keep letting me down by quitting, not working hard, or doing a piss poor job where he has to come back and do it over again. But what's his take on this? It's like, how can I be rich if the quality of the labor is this poor? And that's what every evil corp in America has to figure out. It's like you can put up these job ads, but when the people coming into them realize that their dreams are never going to be fulfilled with $16 an hour, what are you really selling them? Another day of just keeping them alive, keeping their life subscriptions to food, transportation, and housing alive? These owners are so out of touch, just like our government is out of touch. People need help. The general working class of Americans in America need help just as badly as people in other third world countries. Most people are behind on their car payments, behind on their credit card payments, behind on everything because they prioritize housing. You don't want to be on the street, not in temperatures like this. And what you are willing to do is put your head down. Don't look up. Because as one of my psychology professors told me my last semester before I graduated from school was, never look up or you will always be disappointed. When we look up at influencers and rich people on YouTube or TikTok or whatever social media you want to look at people, when you look up and then you look at what you have, it's the most devastating nut punch you can give yourself every day. But if you look down, well, then you can always say something like this. And this is what my professor said. When you look down at people, you can always say, I'm doing better than that guy. And this is the way that at least I tell myself when I'm feeling super ugly and I look at someone that's looks just like me, except they're fat, right? And it's like, well, at least I'm not fat. Boom. It's the angle that you need in order to give yourself that little nudge to keep you going. At least I'm not fat. I mean, that's the society we live in. That's what keeps the proletariat down. Is that none of us want to unite together because none of us want to believe that there's anything wrong. Why do you think my content doesn't get millions of views? Simply put, no one wants to believe that at Pound Town, you're not doing the pounding. That at Surf City, you're not doing the surfing. At Amazon's Death Star, if you fall, they're just going to walk around you. And Evil Corp, well, it exists because that's what our country is. I said this in a video last week. We don't live in the United States of America. It hasn't existed in 30, 40 years. We live in corporate America, where everything you do is monitored, what you think, your attitude, even the smile on your face is probably in the employee handbook. Must be smiling 99% of the time. If this is how bad it is. When I worked in retail, the smile was considered part of the uniform. So if you came to work and you frowned, that was considered being out of uniform. That's how bad things are out there. All right, let's get into the final talking point. The work hard and you'll succeed mantra keeps the working class compliant, overworked, underpaid, while the real wealth is generated by leveraging other people's labor and resources. Those are the key words here, people. Other people's labor makes you rich. Just like that greedy landscape owner who wants to make $1 million in profit. Record profit is other people's labor in order to make yourself rich. Other people's labor makes people rich, not your labor. The hardest working people in our society have the most terrible lives. Think of construction workers, farmers, meat packing, hospitality, car wash. These people work really, really hard to earn nothing. Other people's labor. Other people's labor isn't limited to them. Any person that doesn't control the means of production is a person who is other people's labor. Selling your labor to McDonald's every day while you work the drive-thru, it's not going to make you rich. And believe me, McDonald's is rich as hell. And that's what really gets to me sometimes is that Walmart is one of the richest corporate retail corporations in the world. It wouldn't hurt them to bring a living wage to their workers. But no, anything that helps regular people, there's a pact out there in our society that no one can pay them. And it was a pact between Walmart, Target, and Kroger's to keep the wages where they're at, despite what it does to their workers. They don't care if your mental health is in the toilet or that they're repossessing your car. It's all about them. It's your labor, it's your body, it's their profit. All right, let's get into our closing monologue. Hard work might keep the lights on, but it won't buy you the building that they're wired to. If you weren't born into wealth, you aren't climbing a ladder. You're building it while someone else sells tickets to watch you struggle. The game was never about effort, it was about position. And unless you're holding the keys to the castle, you're just paying rent on the moat. Somehow, I wanted to incorporate Pound Town into this closing because someone this into the comments anytime I use the term Pound Town. Pound Town is a place where you go to every day, just like your job. And just like your job, you're not there to get rich. Pound Town is about pounding you, about other people's labor. That's what pound in Pound Town means. They're pounding you down in order to gain because they don't pass on profits. They don't increase wages based on the amount of productivity. We are the most productive that we have ever been in human history. And we are living in the worst possible way. There are literally tens of millions of people out there who can't make it. And once you can't make it and you're living constant fear, financial stress and job insecurity and a lack of job security right now makes up for a lot of the mental health crisis in America because people don't know what to do. There are no quick get rich quick schemes that actually work. You have YouTubers out there selling you the idea of financial stability, but the reality is they make more money selling you the idea of hope rather than actually providing useful solutions. Selling you hope is an entire industry in this country that's very wealthy because selling you hope means that you'll just keep trying. And the more you try other people's labor, the more that money goes straight to the top. And someone at the top right now is very, very happy that you're reading a motivational poster and that you're trying to incorporate that motivation into your daily life. It's called toxic positivity.